Hello everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jackie and I create mosaics using sea glass. And today I'm going to show you how to create a shape with your sea glass. So if you look at this sea glass mosaic behind me, you can see I've created a heron. It's on a fairly large frame, so it's a fairly big heron. And today I wanted to show you how to create another heron. But this heron is a little bit different. This one's on a smaller frame, so it's a smaller heron, but it's also flying. So you can see the standing heron. It's a fairly simple shape, but I think quite effective. But for this one, I'm going to create I want to create the feeling of the heron flying through the air. So I've got some detail of its wings as it's flying. So it's going to be a little bit fussier. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's get started. So here you can see my pattern that I've drawn for my heron. As you can see, it has lots of spiky bits on it because I want to have the feeling of the heron's wings and all the feathers flying up into the air. So what I'm going to do, and I've also drawn a horizon line. So what I'm planning to do is do the heron in brown and do below the horizon line in green for the water and above the horizon line in white for the sky. So my three main colors, brown, white, and green, are what's going into this one. So the first thing that I did to give myself a bit of a head start, as you can see, there's going to be some fussy going here to get all the feathers, so I'll need a lot of triangular pieces. And there's also going to be some really narrow sections right here, so I have to get the long leg, and I have to get the long beak, and I have to get the feather coming off the heron's head there. So I'm all set. I have my clear silicone ready to go. I have my mosaic tweezers, which I particularly need for a piece like this because I've got so many small pieces to work with. And I have my little wooden skewers. So to give myself a bit of a head start here, I've sorted out a bunch of tiny browns because I know I'm going to need tiny browns for these fussy spots. And I've also sorted out a bunch of triangular pieces. Yeah, I find a lot of brown triangles on the beach. I find a lot of brown because I think the fishermen dump a lot of beer bottles off the side of the boat, so we get lots of brown where I am, which I really like. I love brown sea glass, and it's great for a silhouette like this. So this gives me a bit of a head start because I know I'm going to need triangles for all of these fussy places. So I know I want to use a few big triangles, but I'm mostly using small sea glass here. And you don't really have to follow the pattern exactly because, you know, as long as you get the feeling of feathers sticking out, then that's going to be fine. And I'm not so concerned about them fitting just right in here, fitting right together, because once I get the feathers in, I'm just going to go around and fill in whatever needs to be filled in. And I've got lots of brown sea glass in different shapes and sizes. I want to get some that are long and spiky and some that are kind of a little bit fatter and thicker, just because it's more interesting to me. I don't want it all even Steven, because if it's too even, it's not going to look as natural in my mind. You might prefer it more even. It's all a matter of choice, and it's your piece, so you can do whatever you want. So now that I have all of the tips of the wings all filled in, I can just fill in the wings with whatever pieces fit. The only thing that I would do is I have this line going down here that separates the two wings, and I'm going to put a line of sea glass down along there, so that the two wings look separate and they don't flow together too much. So there we go, I got the wings all outlined, so now it's just a matter of filling in the brown. One of the things I like about the way I've done these wings is I'm using all different shades of brown so that it will give the heron just a little bit more interest. Now for the beak, I need to use really tiny pieces. I want to be kind of particular about sticking to the line of the beak. Now the other thing I have to do is find a special piece for the heron's eye, because I really think, even though the heron is silhouetted, and if you were looking at a heron out on the water, you wouldn't see the eye. But for a piece like this, I just think having the eye makes it really interesting. Now I have this piece of pottery with blue on either side, and I have an eye almost identical to that in my big heron behind me here. And it's interesting because you can see the eye from both sides, but obviously that eye is way too big for this heron. And I don't have a smaller one like that, so that won't do. So I dug some other ones out to try. That one's too big. I thought maybe I had this little yellow one. I think that one isn't really going to work because it's too close in color to the brown. It's not going to stand out enough. And this yellow one, same idea there. I went and grabbed a bunch. Same with this little pebble. I thought maybe a little round pebble, but it looks like the piece of glass. And then I also had this little red bead. It's a glass bead that has a little hole in the middle, and that might be a good contender. I'll leave that one aside. And then I thought maybe a shell. This is a really good one. Looks a lot like an eye, especially if I stand it on its end a bit. But it's too big for this heron. It would do for a heron that was a bit bigger. Then I had this red piece. I like that, but it's a little bit big, I think, for this heron. Maybe. Or I could use a tiny shell. And a tiny shell might do the trick. That one stands out. That one's a bit too dark. This one's probably going to be too... I went and got quite a few to pick from here. Auditioned different pieces. That one, I think I like the lighter one better. So I think that red piece is too big. I think of the two red ones, this one is better. All right, I think I'm going to use that one. So that's often what I do when I have a special spot that I want filled in with a special piece. I usually pick a bunch of different ones and then audition different options for it. My heron's head is starting to take shape. Now I just want to show you one thing. The herons tend to have this long feather that comes out of the back of their head. And for something like this, what I'm going to do is take small brown pieces. I could take a piece like this that's really small and skinny, but then after that I'm going to stand pieces on end. When you're working with tiny pieces like this, it's a bit fiddly, but I just find that you can do whatever you want in terms of making a shape. So now here it's just a matter of following the lines that I've created on my pattern to get the outline of the heron. So the other thing that's kind of fussy about this particular design is the legs. So the heron's legs are really long and skinny, and so I have to find small pieces that create that nice straight line to represent his legs. See where I had a little bit of a jut out there too to represent his 2 feet. So I'm going to put a little thing there to give you that impression. So I have the legs done there, and about this stage it's a good time to stand back and take a look and say, okay, do I have the lines exactly where I want them? Because this is my shape. So this lesson is all on how to create shape. So I'm outlining it. Once I fill it all in, it will complete the shape, but the outline is what really matters. And what I'm going to do is fill it in and then just do along the bottom as I fill it in, just to make sure the pieces all fit really well. I find that works better than doing the entire outline, especially for a fussy piece like this. So one of the reasons why I really like working with clear silicone is that it takes a long time to dry. So I've got all these feathers on for the wings, and I've got the legs and the beak all done, but I want to go back and make sure that everything fits properly before I start filling in. And the clear silicone is still a little bit wet, so I'm able to kind of poke at the pieces and get them exactly where I want them to be. And then I think what I'll do is I'll take a break. I'll go away and leave it for a bit. And then by the time I come back, the clear silicone will be set and I won't have to worry about any of these pieces shifting out of place on me. So once I've got the outline done of the heron, it didn't take me very long to go through my pile of brown sea glass and find all the right shapes to fit together to fill in the rest of the heron. So the next step is to fill in the sky. So I started with the horizon line and I filled that in with white. And now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the rest of it. So I finished filling in the sky and I wanted to make the sky kind of interesting. So I made a sun here, kind of trying to make it look a bit like a radiating sun. I added some sea pottery here to make some strips of cloud in the sky. And that little blue piece that I showed you I'd been considering for the eye, but it was too big. I used that to make a little bird or some sort of wildlife flying up in the sky. And I also used some aqua pieces to add some interest, and I varied big pieces with small pieces, all of it just to make the sky a little bit more interesting. And I also picked out some sea pottery pieces for my inukshuk in this piece. So now I'll just fill in the green for the water and it'll be done. So there you have it. I finished the water in this sea glass mosaic and my flying heron is complete. I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson on how to create a shape with your sea glass and that it inspires you to go on and create some amazing sea glass mosaics of your own. Until next time, happy sea glass hunting.